All right, let's get right into it. We're going to tackle one of the biggest questions out there. Why do we all think so differently? I mean, it's a question that gets to the very heart of who we are, how we connect with each other, and yeah, why we sometimes clash so much.
You've definitely had this happen. You and a friend watch the exact same movie, or maybe you and a relative hear the same bit of news. You both saw or heard the exact same information, the same facts. But when you start talking about it, it's like you were in two completely different realities. How does that happen?
It really is a puzzle, isn't it? You'd think, since we all have pretty much the same hardware, a human brain, that our thinking would be more aligned. But our perspectives can be worlds apart. So today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the hidden forces that make each and every one of our minds so incredibly unique.
Now, this isn't just some abstract philosophical idea. Understanding why we think so differently has huge real-world implications. Honestly, it's a skill, and it might just be one of the most important ones we can learn.
Think about it. When we can actually grasp why someone sees the world differently, we stop judging, and we start getting curious. And that simple shift, it can cool down arguments. It can make our relationships both at home and at work so much deeper. And on a bigger scale, it helps us build a society that can actually work together. But maybe the biggest thing is that it helps us understand ourselves a whole lot better.
So here's the key idea. None of us, not a single one, sees the world as it truly is. We all see it through a set of invisible filters, or lenses. These lenses get built up over our entire lives, and they color literally everything we see. Today, we're going to look at the 5 big ones.
First up, we've got the biology lens. You can think of this as the unique computer hardware we're all born with. Long before we have our first memory, our genes are already sketching out the basic blueprint of our minds.
So your specific genetic code, that has a huge say in your natural temperament. Your own personal neurochemistry influences how strongly you feel things like joy or anxiety. And just the way your brain physically grew and connected itself means that no two brains on Earth are exactly alike. Nope, not even for identical twins.
So the big takeaway here is that we don't start out as blank slates, just waiting for the world to write on us. We arrive with a pre-drawn map. Some mountains and valleys are already there. Our life experiences will build the roads for sure, but the landscape itself is uniquely ours right from the start. Okay, so building right on top of that biological map is our second lens, upbringing. These are the experiences from our early years that write the first and maybe the most important chapters of our personal story.
Just think about the home you grew up in. Was it loud and chaotic, or quiet and predictable? The way your parents were with you taught you fundamental lessons about who to trust and what authority means. And those really powerful moments of feeling totally safe or maybe deeply scared, they create these emotional anchors that can shape your gut reactions to things for the rest of your life.
And this is so important. These early experiences don't just create memories. They build what you could call our emotional logic. It's like an internal, unconscious rulebook for how the world works and what to expect from other people. And we carry that rulebook with us forever.
All right, on to lens number 3, culture. So if biology is the hardware and upbringing is the early programming, you can think of culture as the operating system. It's this invisible software that's always running in the background, guiding our thoughts in ways we barely ever notice. The very language you speak shapes the kinds of ideas that are easy for you to think about. Your cultural traditions tell you what's important. Is it the family unit or individual achievement? And social norms, well, they're the unwritten rules for how to act, what to care about, and even what you're supposed to believe. Okay, next up is our 4th lens, and this one has become unbelievably powerful in our modern world. It's the information lens. A good way to think about this one is like the diet you are feeding your brain every single day.
I mean, our formal schooling gives us the foundation. The news we choose to watch and the media we consume constantly updates our picture of the world. And now we have algorithms on social media and search engines that are actively building a personalized reality just for you, feeding you stuff that keeps you scrolling, which often means just showing you more of what you already believe.
And that leads us perfectly to our 5th and final lens, the bias lens. See, our brains are trying to process an impossible amount of information every second. So to deal with it all, they've evolved to take these really clever, energy-saving shortcuts. But those shortcuts have a price.
So confirmation bias, for example, makes us hunt for information that proves we're right and kind of ignore anything that suggests we might be wrong. Emotional reasoning is that sneaky voice that tells us, hey, if you feel it this strongly, it must be true. And our brains are just hardwired to pay way more attention to fear than to logic. That's why a single scary headline can feel more real than a mountain of reassuring data. And these aren't character flaws. They're just part of being human.
So you've got these 5 huge forces shaping us: biology, upbringing, culture, information, and bias. But now we have to throw in a modern twist, because today's technology is like a massive amplifier for all these differences.
It's really important to get this. Things like social media didn't create our disagreements. What they did was take our natural human tendency to like people who agree with us and put it on steroids. They build these digital echo chambers where it can feel like everyone on Earth thinks just like we do. And that makes people with other views seem not just different, but totally alien, and maybe even wrong.
Okay, so you might be thinking we're all just doomed to misunderstand each other forever. But I want to offer a completely different way to look at this whole thing. What if all these differences in how we think aren't a bug in the human system? What if it's actually a feature?
Just let that sink in for a second. Our view of the world is just a reflection of our unique journey, our biology, our history, our culture. It means that every single person you meet is carrying a totally unique piece of the human puzzle. So disagreement, then, isn't a sign that something's broken. It's just what happens when 2 unique maps of the world happen to overlap.
So what do we do with this? How do we actually use this idea in our day-to-day lives, especially when we're face-to-face with someone we disagree with? Well, this is where we can move from just understanding to actually doing.
It all comes down to a simple 3-step approach. First, get curious, not furious. When you feel that flash of anger in a disagreement, try to swap it for curiosity. Just ask, "That's interesting. Why do you see it that way?" Second, play detective for a minute. Ask yourself, okay, what lenses might be at work here? Is this a cultural thing? Is it something from their upbringing? And third, and this is the hardest one, turn that lens around on yourself. Acknowledge your own filters. Realize that your view is just as shaped and filtered as theirs is.
And that really leaves us with one final, pretty big question to chew on. If you had been born with a different biological map, into a different family, in a totally different culture, and fed a completely different diet of information for your entire life, would the beliefs you hold so strongly right now still be the same?
It's a humbling thought, right? And a pretty powerful one to carry around with you. For more ideas that help you think a little deeper about the world, make sure to follow our show. Thanks so much for tuning in.